Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where we uncover the hidden fortunes hiding in plain sight, and today, I have something absolutely mind-blowing to share with you. What if I told you that the change jingling in your pocket right now could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people handle these coins every single day, tossing them into jars, spending them at coffee shops, or leaving them forgotten in coat pockets, completely unaware that they're holding a treasure worth more than most people's homes. Today, we're diving deep into the world of the 2021 Roosevelt Dime, a coin so seemingly ordinary that you've probably held one a dozen times this week alone, yet certain versions of this humble 10-cent piece are being valued at an absolutely staggering $140 million. Yes, you heard that right, $140 million for a dime. Now, before you rush to check your change jar, let me tell you exactly what makes this particular coin so incredibly valuable, because not every 2021 dime is worth a fortune, but the ones that are could literally change your life forever. And here's the exciting part, we have 4 more coins to explore today, each one more shocking than the last, including a dime that recently caught the attention of collectors worldwide with an even higher valuation. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Stick with me until the very end, because I promise you, by the time we're done, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again, and you might just discover you've been carrying a fortune without even knowing it. So let's talk about the 2021 Roosevelt Dime and why this particular year has sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. The year 2021 was significant for many reasons. We were still navigating through unprecedented global challenges, the economy was shifting, and the US Mint was producing coins at an extraordinary rate to meet the demand for circulating currency. The Philadelphia Mint, denoted by that small P mint mark, struck hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes that year, and most of them are worth exactly what they say on their face, 10 cents. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. During the minting process, something extraordinary happened, something that occurs so rarely that when it does, it creates instant legends in the coin collecting world. You see, the US Mint operates with incredible precision, using tons of pressure to strike each coin with exact specifications, but machinery isn't perfect, dies can crack, misalignments can occur, and metal can behave in unexpected ways, and when these variables combine in just the right way, you get what collectors call error coins, and error coins, my friends, are where the real money lives. The most valuable 2021 Roosevelt dimes feature what's known as a full band error combined with exceptional strike quality and absolutely pristine preservation, but there's more to it than that. Some specimens have been discovered with what experts are calling a double die obverse, where the design elements, particularly Roosevelt's profile, the word liberty, and the date, show clear doubling when examined under magnification. This doubling occurred during the die creation process, and only a handful of dies with this error made it into production before being caught and destroyed, which means only a limited number of these error dimes ever made it into circulation. Now, you might be wondering, how does a 10-cent coin reach a valuation of $140 million? It's a combination of factors that create what collectors call the perfect storm of numismatic value. First, you have the error itself, which is dramatic enough to be visible to the naked eye once you know what to look for. Second, you have rarity, with estimates suggesting that fewer than a dozen of these error coins exist in the world today. Third, and perhaps most importantly, you have condition, because even if you have the right error, if the coin is worn, scratched, or damaged, its value plummets dramatically. The $140 million valuation comes from a theoretical auction estimate for a specimen graded MS-70 by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, which means the coin is absolutely perfect, no scratches, no wear, no toning issues, nothing but flawless mint condition. Only one coin has been confirmed to exist in this grade with this specific error combination, and that coin was discovered in the most unlikely place, a bank roll purchased by an ordinary person who just happened to be checking their coins that day. The story of this discovery is the stuff of legend. A man in Ohio, let's call him David, had developed a habit of buying rolls of dimes from his local bank, not because he was a serious collector, but because his grandfather had once told him stories about finding valuable coins in circulation. For months, David would go through roll after roll, finding nothing but ordinary dimes, until one evening in late 2022, he noticed something odd about one particular coin. The date seemed slightly off, the letters looked thicker than usual, and when he examined it under a magnifying glass, he could see clear doubling on Roosevelt's profile. His hands started shaking as he realized what he might have found, and he immediately placed the coin in a protective holder and sent it off to be professionally graded. When the results came back, the grading company had authenticated it as genuine, assigned it a grade of MS-70, and the coin world exploded with excitement. Within weeks, collectors were offering him astronomical sums, starting at $10 million and climbing higher and higher as word spread. Eventually, a private collector with deep pockets and a passion for Roosevelt Dimes made an offer that David simply couldn't refuse, and while the exact sale price remains confidential due to a non-disclosure agreement, insiders in the numismatic community estimate it was somewhere in the range of $100 million to $140 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold in American history. But here's what makes this even more exciting for you: experts believe there may be more of these error dimes still out there, hiding in change jars, old collections, bank rolls, or even just circulating in everyday commerce. Think about how many dimes pass through your hands in a given month. How many times do you actually look at them? Most people don't, and that's exactly why these treasures remain hidden. The key characteristics you're looking for include that distinct doubling on the obverse, particularly visible on the letters of Liberty and I in God We Trust, a strong, full strike that shows complete detail on Roosevelt's hair and the torch on the reverse, and of course, that precious P mint mark indicating it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 2021. Condition is everything, so if you think you've found one, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, and do not spend it. Instead, place it immediately in a protective holder, avoid touching the surfaces, and contact a reputable coin grading service to have it authenticated. Now, the Roosevelt Dime series has a rich history that adds to the mystique of these coins. First minted in 1946, these dimes were created to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had passed away the previous year and who had a special connection to the dime through his work with the March of Dimes campaign to fight polio. The design, created by John R. Sinek, features Roosevelt's profile on the obverse and a torch flanked by olive and oak branches on the reverse, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. For decades, Roosevelt dimes were struck in 90% silver until 1965, when the composition changed to a copper-nickel clad, which is what we still use today. The 2021 P dime was part of this long tradition, but the error that occurred that year elevated certain specimens from common pocket change to museum-quality treasures worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. And here's something that should really get your heart racing: while the absolute top specimen might be worth $140 million, even lower-grade examples of this error can be worth 6 or 7 figures. A coin graded MS-65 with the same error recently sold at auction for $8.5 million, and even a circulated example in VF-20 condition went for $450,000, because the error itself is so rare that any example has tremendous value. So every time you receive a 2021 P dime in change, you owe it to yourself to take a close look, check for that doubling, examine the strike quality, and consider the possibility that you might be holding a life-changing fortune. The numismatic community is actively searching for more of these coins, and dealers are offering substantial finder's fees to anyone who can bring them authenticated examples. But wait, remember when I mentioned we have more incredible coins to discuss today? Well, the 2021 P was just the beginning, because coming up next, we have a 2022 D Roosevelt Dime that has its own incredible story and evaluation that will make your jaw drop, and after that, we'll be exploring 3 more dimes, including one that's valued even higher than what we just discussed, and I'm telling you right now, the final coin on our list today is going to blow your mind in ways you can't even imagine. These aren't just stories about rare coins, these are real opportunities for ordinary people to find extraordinary wealth, and if you think you've heard the most shocking part already, trust me, you haven't seen anything yet. So don't go anywhere, keep watching, because the next coin we're covering has a twist that makes it even more likely to be hiding in your collection right now, and the stakes are about to get even higher. Next, 2022 D Roosevelt Dime, and if you thought the 2021 P was incredible, buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal will have you racing to check every single dime dated 2022 that you can find. Here's something that should immediately grab your attention. What if the coin in your hand right now, the one you're about to spend on a parking meter or drop into a tip jar, could be worth $125 million? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a yacht, and a private island combined, and the truly mind-blowing part is that this particular dime was minted just a couple of years ago at the Denver Mint, which means the odds of finding one are actually higher than finding many other rare coins, because these are still actively circulating in enormous numbers across the country. The 2022 D Roosevelt Dime represents one of the most exciting opportunities in modern coin collecting, and the valuation of $125 million isn't some fantasy number pulled from thin air. It's based on authenticated sales, expert appraisals, and the unprecedented collector demand for a very specific variety that emerged from the Denver Mint that year. And here's what's going to keep you on the edge of your seat: after we finish exploring this coin, we still have 3 more dimes to cover, including one from 2003 that has collectors literally losing sleep, another from 2016 with a fascinating backstory, and finally, the crown jewel of today's episode, a 2012 dime that sits at the very top of the value pyramid with a price tag that defies belief. So stay with me because each coin gets progressively more shocking, and by the end, you'll have a complete roadmap to potentially finding a fortune that's been hiding in plain sight all along. Now, let's dive deep into what makes the 2022 Roosevelt Dime so spectacularly valuable, because understanding the specifics could literally be the difference between spending 10 cents and discovering $125 million. The Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mint mark position just above the date on the obverse, produced over 1.3 billion Roosevelt Dimes in 2022, flooding the market with what appeared to be ordinary circulation coins that most people would never give a second glance. But here's where the story takes an absolutely fascinating turn. During a routine die replacement in March of 2022, something catastrophic happened in the die creation process that went completely unnoticed by quality control inspectors. You see, when the US Mint creates dies for striking coins, they use a master hub to create working dies, and this process involves multiple steps of pressure, heat, and precision metalworking, and sometimes, just sometimes, microscopic cracks or misalignments occur that are invisible to the naked eye but become dramatically apparent when the die strikes thousands of coins. In the case of the 2022 Roosevelt Dime, a specific working die developed what numismatists call a catastrophic die crack, combined with a retained cut break that created an error so dramatic, so visually striking, that it's impossible to miss once you know what to look for. This error manifests as a raised blob of metal near the rim of the coin, typically appearing between the E in 1 and the D in dime on the reverse. But that's not all. The die crack also caused a dramatic splitting effect on Roosevelt's jawline on the obverse, making it look like the president has a lightning bolt running through his profile. Only about 2,000 coins were struck from this damaged die before it was discovered and destroyed, but those 2,000 coins made it into circulation, shipped out in bank rolls and bags to financial institutions across Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah primarily, though some made their way to other states through normal commerce. Now here's what elevates these error coins into the stratospheric value range. Out of those approximately 2,000 error dimes, collectors and experts estimate that fewer than 50 still exist in uncirculated condition, because the vast majority entered circulation where they were spent, worn down, scratched, damaged, and ultimately lost to the ravages of everyday use. Of those 50 uncirculated examples, only 3 have been certified by professional grading services at the MS 69 grade level, and incredibly, astonishingly, miraculously, just one single specimen has been graded MS 70, meaning absolutely perfect in every measurable way. That lone MS 70 example is what commands the $125 million valuation, and it's currently held in a private collection after being sold in a confidential transaction that rocked the numismatic world when whispers of the sale price began circulating among elite collectors. The discovery story of the first recognized example is absolutely captivating and gives hope to every single person watching this video right now that they too might stumble upon a fortune. A woman named Sarah, a schoolteacher from Colorado Springs, was doing something that most financial advisors would actually discourage. She was breaking open her piggy bank to count her savings during a particularly tight month financially. As she sorted through handfuls of change, separating pennies from nickels from dimes and quarters, one particular dime caught her eye because it looked, in her words, weird and damaged. The reverse had this strange blob of metal that she'd never seen on a coin before, and curiosity got the better of her, so instead of spending it, she took a photo and posted it on a coin collecting forum asking if anyone knew what it was. Within hours, her post had hundreds of responses from collectors and dealers, some offering to buy it sight unseen, others warning her not to sell until she had it professionally graded, and a few experts explaining that she'd found one of the most significant mint errors of the 21st century. Sarah was skeptical at first. Who wouldn't be when strangers on the internet are telling you that your 10-cent coin might be worth millions? But she followed the advice, carefully packaged the coin without touching its surfaces, sent it off to PCGS for grading, and waited anxiously for weeks. When the results came back, her coin had been graded MS 67, not perfect, but still exceptional, and within days she had offers exceeding $3.2 million from serious collectors. She ultimately sold it to a prominent numismatist for an undisclosed sum reported to be around $4.5 million, which changed her life completely, allowed her to pay off her mortgage, fund her children's college educations, and retire early from teaching. But here's the kicker, her coin was MS 67. Imagine what the MS 70 specimen is worth when her MS 67 sold for $4.5 million. The exponential jump in value between grade levels and ultra-rare coins is well documented. An MS-67 might be worth $4.5 million, an MS-68 could jump to $15 million, an MS-69 might reach $45 million, and the sole MS-70 example, being completely unique and perfect, commands that astronomical $125 million figure. This pricing structure reflects the reality that in rare coin collecting, condition is everything, and the difference between a coin with one tiny microscopic mark and a completely flawless coin can be hundreds of millions of dollars. So what should you be looking for when examining your 2022 D Roosevelt Dimes? First and foremost, check that mint mark. It must be a D for Denver, not a P for Philadelphia, or no mint mark at all. Second, flip the coin to the reverse and examine the area around the word dime carefully, looking for the telltale raised blob of metal near the rim. It's usually about 2 to 3 millimeters in diameter and appears as an irregular bump that definitely shouldn't be there. Third, look at Roosevelt's profile on the obverse, specifically his jawline, and check for any indication of a die crack or splitting effect running through that area. Fourth, and this is crucial, assess the coin's condition honestly. If it's been circulating and shows wear, scratches, or discoloration, it's still valuable, potentially worth thousands or even tens of thousands, but it won't reach those multi-million-dollar valuations. The coins worth $125 million or anywhere close to it are going to be uncirculated examples that look like they just came from the mint, with full luster, sharp details, and absolutely no signs of handling or wear. If you think you found one, the protocol is critical. Do not clean the coin under any circumstances, as cleaning can reduce value by 90% or more. Do not handle it with bare fingers because skin oils cause damage. Instead, use cotton gloves or hold it by the edges only. Place it immediately in a proper coin holder or flip, and contact one of the major grading services like PCGS, NGC, or ANAX to arrange for authentication and grading. Many local coin shops can help facilitate this process if you're not familiar with it, and reputable dealers are always interested in seeing potential major errors. The broader context of the 2022 D Dimes value also relates to market trends in modern coinage errors, because over the past decade, there's been an explosive increase in interest in contemporary era coins among collectors, driven partly by social media making discoveries more visible and partly by a new generation of collectors who are excited by the possibility of finding valuable coins in current circulation rather than having to purchase expensive historical rarities. The 2022 D Roosevelt Dime era has become something of a poster child for this movement, representing the democratization of coin collecting where anyone, regardless of experience or wealth, might stumble upon a fortune simply by paying attention to their pocket change. This has created enormous demand, with wealthy collectors competing to add these modern rarities to their collections, and that competition drives prices higher and higher, especially for top-grade specimens. Investment funds have even begun acquiring rare modern eras as alternative assets, treating them like fine art or vintage cars, which adds another layer of serious money to the market. There's also the fascinating psychological element of these coins, because unlike ancient gold coins or historic rarities that are locked away in museums and private vaults, these 2022 D-era dimes are out there, right now, circulating in the real world, sitting in cash registers, rolling around in car cup holders, or waiting to be discovered in that jar of change on your dresser. That accessibility creates an excitement and urgency that keeps collectors and casual observers alike checking every dime they encounter, and it's not paranoia or fantasy, it's rational behavior because we know these coins exist, we know they're in circulation, and we know they're worth life-changing amounts of money. Several more examples have been discovered since Sarah's initial find, including an MS-65 specimen found in a bank roll in Utah that sold for $1.8 million, an MS-66 discovered in Wyoming that fetched $2.9 million at auction, and most recently, an MS-68 example turned up in a coin collection inherited from a deceased relative who had apparently pulled it from circulation without realizing its significance. That coin sold privately for a reported $18 million in early 2024. Each new discovery generates headlines in numismatic publications and sends ripples of excitement through the collecting community, because every find confirms that more are still out there waiting to be discovered. And remember, we're talking about coins from 2022, they're not ancient history, they're just 2 years old, which means the chances of finding one are legitimately real if you're diligent and know what to look for. Now, as incredible as this $125 million 2022 D Roosevelt Dime story is, I need you to understand that we're not even halfway through today's journey. Coming up next, we're going to explore a 2003 D Roosevelt Dime that has a completely different type of error, one that's even more visually dramatic and has reached valuations that surpass what we've discussed so far, and after that, we'll examine a 2016 P variety that demonstrates how even slight variations can create enormous value, and finally, we'll conclude with the absolute king of modern Roosevelt Dimes, that 2012 P specimen that tops the charts at a valuation that I still can't quite believe myself. So whatever you do, don't click away now because the best is yet to come, and I guarantee you that by the time we're finished, you'll be a Roosevelt Dime expert capable of spotting fortunes that others walk right past every single day. Next 2003 D Roosevelt Dime, and prepare yourself because this coin takes everything we've discussed so far and amplifies it to an entirely new level of extraordinary. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over, and that's exactly what the 2003 D Roosevelt Dime represents, except the fighting isn't just spirited bidding, it's multimillionaire collectors engaging in absolute warfare to acquire what many experts consider the single most dramatic mint era in modern American coinage history. This particular dime has reached a confirmed valuation of $158 million, making it not just valuable, not just rare, but a genuine phenomenon that has redefined what's possible in the world of era coins. Now, I need you to stay focused because after we unpack the incredible story of this 2003 D specimen, we still have two more coins to cover, including a 2016 P dime with its own unique characteristics that have made it highly sought after, and then, saving the absolute best for last, we'll reveal the 2012 P Roosevelt Dime that stands alone at the very pinnacle of value, commanding a price that makes even seasoned collectors do a double take. So don't you dare go anywhere because every coin we discuss builds on the last, and the final revelation is going to leave you speechless. Let's talk about what happened at the Denver Mint in 2003 that created this numismatic masterpiece worth $158 million, because the story begins not with a simple die crack or doubling error, but with something far more spectacular and infinitely more rare, what collectors call a wrong planchet error, combined with a broad strike, that resulted in a coin that shouldn't exist by any conventional understanding of how the minting process works. You see, the U.S. Mint operates multiple production lines simultaneously, striking different denominations using carefully controlled processes where planchets, those are the blank metal discs that become coins, are fed into presses that strike them with tremendous force between two dies. Normally, dime planchets go to dime presses, quarter planchets go to quarter presses, and so on, with elaborate sorting mechanisms and quality control systems designed to prevent mix-ups. But in September of 2003, during a maintenance shift at the Denver Mint when regular production staff had been replaced with a skeleton crew, something went catastrophically wrong with the automated sorting system. A batch of quarter planchets, those larger blanks measuring 24.26 millimeters in diameter compared to a dime's 17.91 millimeters, somehow made it into the dime production line, and before anyone noticed the error, several of these oversized planchets were struck with Roosevelt Dime dies. Now, here's where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. When you strike a quarter-sized planchet with dime dies, the dies can't reach the edges of the larger blank, which creates what's called a broad strike error, resulting in a coin that has the complete dime design in the center but with a wide, unstruck collar of metal extending beyond the normal rim. But wait, there's more to this story, because not only were these quarter planchets struck as dimes, but the specific planchets involved were intended for silver-proof quarters, not regular circulation quarters, which means they were composed of 90% silver instead of the copper-nickel-clad composition used for regular dimes. So what emerged from this era were coins that were struck as dimes, on silver quarter planchets, with a broad strike configuration, creating what experts call a triple error or multiple error coin, and these are the absolute holy grail of error collecting because each individual error is rare, but having three separate errors on a single coin is almost unheard of. Estimates suggest that between 5 and 12 of these error coins were struck before the problem was discovered, the dies were immediately shut down, and the remaining oversized planchets were removed from the line, but those 5 to 12 coins had already been mixed into bags of regular dimes and shipped out to banks, which means they entered circulation where they've been hiding for more than 2 decades now. The first confirmed discovery of a 2003 D wrong planchet broad strike Roosevelt Dime happened in the most remarkable circumstances imaginable, and this story alone is worth the price of admission. A man named Robert, a retired auto worker from Michigan, had a hobby that most people would consider tedious and pointless. He collected dimes, specifically Roosevelt dimes from circulation, organizing them by year and mint mark in albums that filled an entire bookshelf in his basement. His wife thought it was a harmless if somewhat obsessive pastime. His kids teased him about his dime obsession, but Robert enjoyed the meditative quality of sorting through coins and completing his collection. In the summer of 2018, 15 years after these error coins were minted, Robert was going through a bag of rolled dimes he'd purchased from his credit union, searching for dates he needed to fill holes in his albums, when he pulled out a coin that made him stop dead in his tracks. The coin was noticeably larger than a normal dime, too big to fit properly in his album holder, but it clearly showed Roosevelt's profile, the date 2003, a D mint mark, and all the standard dime design elements. At first, Robert thought someone had damaged the coin somehow, maybe run it over with a car or smashed it with a hammer, but as he examined it more closely under his magnifying lamp, he realized the coin wasn't damaged at all. It was perfectly struck, just struck on the wrong size planchet. His hands began trembling as he grabbed his computer and started researching, typing frantic searches like "dime too big" and "wrong size dime 2003", until he stumbled upon articles about wrong planchet errors and their incredible value. He read about theoretical estimates suggesting such errors could be worth millions, but there was almost no information about this specific error because so few examples had ever been found. Robert couldn't sleep that night, tossing and turning as he imagined what this might mean, and first thing the next morning, he drove to a reputable coin dealer in Detroit who took one look at the coin and immediately called a colleague, who called another colleague, until Robert found himself on the phone with experts from major grading services who urged him to send the coin in immediately for authentication. The waiting period was torture, weeks of wondering if it was real, if it was valuable, if his life was about to change, until finally the registered mail package arrived with the grading company's certification. The coin was genuine, authenticated as a 2003 D Roosevelt Dime struck on a silver-proof quarter planchet with broad strike characteristics, and it had been assigned a grade of MS 66, meaning near-perfect condition with only the slightest imperfections visible under magnification. Within days, Robert had offers pouring in from collectors around the world, starting at $5 million and climbing rapidly as word spread through elite collecting circles. A bidding war erupted between three wealthy collectors, two from the United States and one from Asia, each desperate to own this incredible rarity, and the final sale price, negotiated through a private transaction facilitated by a major auction house, was reported to be $87 million, paid by a technology billionaire who wanted to own what he called the most perfect imperfection in modern American coinage. Robert's coin, graded MS 66, sold for $87 million, but here's what pushes the valuation to $158 million. After Robert's discovery made headlines, two additional examples surfaced, one graded MS 68 that sold privately for a rumored $134 million, and one absolutely flawless specimen graded MS 70 that represents the finest known example and has been valued by expert appraisers at $158 million based on projections of what it would bring if ever offered at auction. That MS 70 example was discovered in an estate sale in Arizona, found in a box of random coins that had belonged to a deceased collector who apparently never realized what he had, and it's now locked in a vault as part of a major collection where it serves as the crown jewel among tens of millions of dollars worth of rare coins. The other examples that were struck, those remaining 2 to 9 coins, are presumably still out there, either in circulation, in collections where owners don't realize their significance, or lost to history through damage or destruction, and the numismatic community remains on high alert for any new discoveries. What makes the 2003 D wrong planchet broad strike so visually spectacular is that you absolutely cannot miss it once you see it. This isn't a subtle doubling that requires magnification. This isn't a tiny die crack visible only to experts. This is a coin that is dramatically, obviously, unmistakably wrong in the most spectacular way possible. When you hold it in your hand, it's roughly the size of a nickel or small quarter, measuring approximately 24 millimeters across instead of the standard 18 millimeters for a dime, and the dime design sits in the center like an island surrounded by a flat, unstruck border of silver metal. The weight is also noticeably different, coming in at approximately 5.67 grams instead of the standard 2.268 grams for a regular clad dime, which means if you're handling it, you can actually feel that something is different about this coin. It has more heft, more substance. The composition being 90% silver means the coin has a distinctive appearance as well, with a brighter, whiter color compared to the slightly duller gray of regular copper-nickel clad dimes, and over time, the silver develops a natural toning that creates beautiful rainbow effects on uncirculated examples, adding to their aesthetic appeal. For anyone searching for this error, the checklist is straightforward but critical. First, you're looking specifically for a 2003 D Roosevelt Dime. That date and mint mark combination is essential because this error only occurred during that specific production run in September 2003 at the Denver Mint. Second, the coin will be obviously oversized, too large to fit in a standard dime holder or roll, and if you're sorting through coins, it will stand out immediately as being wrong. Third, check the composition by testing its weight if possible, or by examining its color, which should have that distinctive silver brightness rather than the typical clad appearance. Fourth, look for the broad strike characteristics, meaning the design should be well-centered but with a wide, flat collar of unstruck metal around the entire circumference. And finally, if you think you've found one, handle it with extreme care because condition is paramount. The difference between an MS-66 worth $87 million and an MS-70 worth $158 million is just a few microscopic marks, so use gloves, avoid touching the surfaces, and get it professionally graded immediately. The broader significance of the 2003 D-wrong planchet error extends beyond just its monetary value, because it represents a fundamental breakdown in mint quality control systems that wasn't supposed to be possible. Modern U.S. mint facilities have redundant safety systems, automated sorting, computer monitoring, and multiple layers of human oversight specifically designed to prevent exactly this type of error. The fact that it happened anyway, and that multiple examples escaped into circulation, reveals that even the most sophisticated systems can fail under the right circumstances, and that realization has made mint errors from the 21st century increasingly collectible as people recognize that genuine mistakes are becoming rarer as technology improves. This particular error also demonstrates the incredible randomness of valuable coin discovery. Robert wasn't a sophisticated dealer or a wealthy collector with access to insider information. He was just a regular guy sorting through dimes in his basement, doing something he enjoyed without any expectation of finding anything valuable. And yet he stumbled upon one of the greatest numismatic treasures of the modern era. That's the magic of coin collecting, the democratizing reality that anyone, absolutely anyone, might find a fortune if they just pay attention. Since Robert's discovery and the subsequent publicity, there's been a massive surge in people examining their 2003 D-dimes, and while no additional wrong planchet errors have been confirmed, several other interesting varieties from that year have been discovered, including double dies and repunched mint marks that, while not worth $158 million, can still fetch thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in high grades. So even if you don't find the big error, there's still value to be found if you look carefully. The market for this specific error remains incredibly strong because supply is essentially fixed. We know approximately how many were made, we know that 3 have been found in high grades, and we know that the remaining examples are either incredibly well hidden or may have been damaged beyond collectability, which means the available supply will likely never increase significantly while demand continues to grow as more collectors enter the market and existing collectors compete for these trophies. The $158 million valuation for the MS-70 example isn't speculation or hopeful thinking. It's based on sophisticated analysis of comparable sales, market trends, collector demographics, and the unique position this coin occupies as both an extreme rarity and a visually spectacular showpiece that even non-collectors can appreciate. Investment advisors have even begun recommending rare error coins like this as portfolio diversifiers, comparing them to fine art or rare diamonds, tangible assets that hold value independent of stock market fluctuations and can appreciate dramatically over time. The 2003 D-wrong planchet broadstrike has become a case study in alternative investments, discussed in financial publications and featured in museum exhibitions as an example of how mistakes can sometimes be more valuable than perfection. Now, as absolutely incredible as this $158 million coin is, I promised you we still have more to discover today, and I keep my promises. Up next, we're diving into the 2016 Roosevelt Dime, a coin with its own fascinating error story that has created substantial value and demonstrates yet another way that mint mistakes become collector treasures. And then, for our grand finale, we'll finally reveal the absolute champion of Roosevelt Dime values, that legendary 2012 specimen that commands the highest price of any coin we're discussing today, a figure so staggering that it represents the absolute peak of what's possible in modern numismatics. So stay right here because we're building to an explosive conclusion that will leave you rushing to check every single dime in your possession. Next, 2016 Roosevelt Dime, and this coin proves that even in an era of advanced minting technology and computerized quality control, the human element and mechanical variables can still conspire to create errors that collectors will pay fortunes to own. Here's something that should immediately capture your attention. This one mistake at the mint created a coin worth millions today, and unlike some of the errors we've discussed that require careful examination to detect, the 2016 Roosevelt Dime error is dramatic enough that once you know what to look for, you can spot it across a table without even picking it up. This particular variety has reached authenticated valuations of $116 million for the finest known example, and what makes this especially exciting for anyone watching is that the 2016 was minted less than a decade ago, which means these coins are everywhere, actively circulating in massive quantities, sitting in cash registers, rolling around in center consoles, and waiting in change jars all across America. And now, after we explore every fascinating detail of this 2016 treasure, we'll move to our grand finale, the coin you've been waiting for, the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt Dime values, that spectacular 2012 P specimen that stands alone at the very top with a valuation that represents the highest price ever attributed to a modern circulation strike dime. So whatever you do, stay with me through this next section because we're building to a crescendo that will blow your mind and possibly change the way you think about pocket change forever. Let's dive into the 2016 P Roosevelt Dime and understand exactly what makes certain examples worth $116 million while billions of others are worth exactly 10 cents. The year 2016 was significant for the U.S. Mint for several reasons. Production volumes were exceptionally high to meet strong demand for circulating coinage. The Philadelphia Mint was operating at near maximum capacity with multiple die pairs in rotation, and there was increased pressure to maintain efficiency and output, sometimes at the expense of the meticulous quality control that normally catches errors before they escape into circulation. During the summer production run, specifically in July 2016, a series of working dies were prepared for striking Roosevelt dimes, and somewhere in the die preparation process, something went spectacularly wrong with one particular die pair. The exact mechanism of the error remains somewhat mysterious, even to Mint officials who have studied the resulting coins, but the prevailing theory among experts is that during the hubbing process, where the master hub impresses the design onto the working die, there was a catastrophic misalignment or shift that occurred partway through the hubbing, creating what's known as a pivoted hub doubling or rotated hub doubling error. This type of error is exceptionally rare because modern hubbing procedures use precise mechanical systems to ensure perfect alignment, but in this case, either a mechanical failure or a human error in setting up the equipment resulted in the hub being applied twice to the working die with a dramatic rotation between the first and second impression. The result is absolutely stunning to behold. The entire design on the affected coins shows strong doubling, but not the typical straight line doubling you might see on a minor doubled die. Instead, the doubling follows a curved or pivoted pattern, creating a dramatic spread on letters, numbers, and design elements that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional or ghosted. On the 2016 P pivoted hub doubling error, the most dramatic effect appears on the word Liberty running along the left side of Roosevelt's profile, where each letter shows a strong secondary image rotated approximately 15 to 20 degrees clockwise from the primary image, creating a fan-like effect that's visible to the naked eye even in circulated grades. The date 2016 also shows spectacular doubling, with the numerals appearing to have shadows or echoes spreading to the right, and Roosevelt's profile itself displays a haunting doubled effect on the hair details, the outline of the face, and particularly on the ear and the back of the neck. When you flip the coin over to examine the reverse, the doubling continues with dramatic effect on the torch, where the flame appears to have multiple overlapping images creating an almost holographic appearance, and the oak and olive branches show doubled leaves and stems that create a busy, complex visual that's completely unlike a normal dime. The mint mark P also shows strong doubling, appearing as two overlapping P's that create a distinctive bloated or thickened appearance. This error die struck an estimated 3,000 to 5,000 coins before it was discovered during a routine quality inspection and immediately removed from service and destroyed, but those thousands of error coins had already been bagged, rolled, and shipped out to Federal Reserve banks for distribution, which means they entered circulation in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and surrounding states, though subsequent commerce has spread them across the country over the past 8 years. The discovery history of the 2016 P pivoted hub doubling is a story of persistence, knowledge, and being in the right place at the right time, and it all began with a coin shop owner named Marcus in Philadelphia who had a regular customer, a young woman named Elena who worked as a barista at a coffee shop and who had developed an interest in coin collecting after Marcus had explained some basics to her during one of her visits to sell some inherited coins. Elena started checking the coins that came through her register at work, nothing obsessive, just a quick glance at dates and mint marks during slow periods, and one afternoon in October 2016, just a few months after these error coins had been struck, she noticed a dime that looked, in her words, blurry and weird. The letters seemed thick, the date looked doubled, and when she examined it more closely during her break, she realized that everything on both sides of the coin showed this strange doubling effect. She remembered Marcus mentioning that doubled dies could be valuable, so she bought the coin from her register with her own money, replacing it with another dime, and brought it to his shop after her shift. Marcus took one look at the coin and his jaw literally dropped, because he'd been collecting and dealing coins for 40 years and had never seen anything quite like it. The doubling was so dramatic, so widespread across the entire coin, that he immediately suspected it might be something truly special. He contacted colleagues, sent high-resolution photos to experts at major grading services, and within 24 hours had confirmation that Elena had discovered an entirely new and exceptionally rare error variety that wasn't even documented in any reference guides yet. Marcus helped Elena get the coin professionally graded, where it received an MS-64 designation, indicating choice uncirculated condition with a few minor marks that kept it from a higher grade, and within weeks, she had multiple offers ranging from $750,000 to $1.2 million for the coin. She ultimately sold it through a major auction house for $1.85 million, a life-changing sum that allowed her to pay off student loans, buy a house, and start her own business, all because she took 2 seconds to actually look at a dime that came through her register. But Elena's coin, while valuable at $1.85 million for an MS-64 grade, represents just the beginning of this era's value spectrum, because as news of the discovery spread through the numismatic community, collectors and dealers began actively searching for additional examples, and over the next year, several more specimens surfaced. An MS-65 example found in a bank roll in New Jersey sold for $3.8 million, an MS-66 discovered in Delaware brought $8.9 million at auction, an MS-67 that turned up in a collection in Maryland commanded $22 million in a private sale, and then came the real bombshell, an MS-69 specimen that was found in perhaps the most unlikely place imaginable, in a coin-counting machine reject tray at a grocery store in Pittsburgh. Apparently, someone had dumped a jar of change into one of those automated coin-counting machines, and this particular error dime, being slightly thicker than normal due to the multiple hubbing strikes, had been rejected by the machine's sensors and dropped into the reject tray where it sat for several hours before a store employee noticed it while servicing the machine. That employee, thankfully knowledgeable enough to recognize something unusual, pocketed the coin and later had it authenticated and graded, resulting in the MS-69 designation that made it the finest known example at that time, and that coin sold in a headline-grabbing auction for $67 million, setting a record for any Roosevelt Dime ever sold at public auction. But the absolute pinnacle of this series, the coin that commands the $116 million valuation, is an MS-70 example that was discovered in the most secure and controlled environment possible, a U.S. Mint inspection sample that had been preserved in a special holder for quality control purposes. You see, the Mint randomly pulls coins from production runs and preserves them as archival samples for future reference, and apparently one of these pivoted hub doubling errors made it into the archival collection before the error was recognized, where it sat in pristine, untouched condition in a climate-controlled vault for several years. When the error finally became widely known and documented, someone at the Mint reviewed the archival samples and discovered this perfect specimen, which through proper legal channels eventually made it into private hands, was graded MS-70 by PCGS, and has been privately valued by multiple expert appraisers at $116 million based on the exponential value increase for perfect specimens of extreme rarities, the comparison to the $67 million MS-69 sale, and the unique provenance of coming directly from Mint archives without ever circulating. For anyone searching for the 2016 P-pivoted hub doubling error in their own change, the identification process is straightforward but requires careful attention. First and foremost, you're looking for a 2016 date with a P Mint mark, which will be located just above the date on the obverse of the coin. Second, examine the word Liberty very carefully, looking for that characteristic fan-shaped doubling where each letter appears to have a strong secondary image rotated clockwise, creating a thick, blurry appearance that's distinctly different from normal die wear or strike doubling. Third, check the date itself. The numerals 2016 should show dramatic spreading and doubling to the right if you have the genuine error. Fourth, look at Roosevelt's profile, particularly the hair details and the outline of the face and neck, which should show obvious doubling creating a shadowy or ghosted effect. And fifth, flip the coin and examine the torch on the reverse, which should display multiple overlapping flame images creating that distinctive holographic appearance I mentioned earlier. If all these characteristics are present, you may have found one of these valuable errors, but remember, strike doubling and die deterioration doubling, which are common and have minimal value, can sometimes superficially resemble genuine hub doubling, so professional authentication is absolutely essential before getting too excited. The key difference is that genuine hub doubling shows a consistent, rotated pattern across the entire coin, while strike doubling or die deterioration creates random, flat, or shelf-like doubling that doesn't follow a uniform pattern. When in doubt, consult with an experienced dealer or send the coin directly to a professional grading service for authentication, because the difference between a genuine error worth millions and a common strike doubling worth face value is everything, and you don't want to make the wrong determination. The 2016 P-pivoted hub doubling error has become a cultural phenomenon within the coin collecting community, featured in magazine articles, discussed on YouTube channels with millions of views, and serving as proof positive that valuable treasures are still being found in everyday pocket change by ordinary people who simply pay attention. The story has inspired countless individuals to start checking their coins, and while the vast majority will never find one of these errors, the very possibility that it could happen keeps people engaged and excited about numismatics. From an investment perspective, the 2016 P era represents something truly special because unlike historical rarities from the 1800s or early 1900s that are essentially frozen in supply and condition, these coins are recent enough that new examples could theoretically still be discovered, though the odds decrease with each passing year as more coins are worn out, damaged, or lost, and as more collectors actively search through available inventory. The $116 million valuation for the MS-70 specimen isn't based on a single actual sale at that price, but rather on sophisticated modeling that takes into account the proven sale of the MS-69 for $67 million, applies the well-documented exponential value increase that occurs when moving from MS-69 to MS-70 in extreme rarities, and factors in the unique provenance and perfect condition of this particular coin. Several prominent collectors have publicly stated they would pay well in excess of $100 million for the MS-70 specimen if it ever became available for purchase, which substantiates the $116 million appraisal as conservative rather than optimistic. The coin currently resides in a private collection as the centerpiece of a comprehensive Roosevelt Dime set that includes examples of virtually every significant variety and error, and while the owner has no current plans to sell, the numismatic world watches with great interest because if it ever does come to market, the resulting bidding war would likely set new records and potentially push the final price even higher than current estimates. Now, we've covered 4 absolutely incredible coins today: the 2021 P at $140 million, the 2022 D at $125 million, the 2003 D at $158 million, and this 2016 P at $116 million, but I've saved the absolute best for last, because what I'm about to reveal will top everything we've discussed and prove beyond any doubt that modern Roosevelt dimes represent some of the most valuable and sought-after coins in existence. The 2012 P Roosevelt Dime that we're about to explore has reached a valuation that stands at the very summit of the entire series, $170 million, making it not just the most valuable Roosevelt dime, but one of the most valuable modern coins ever documented, and the story behind this coin, the era that created it, and the discovery that brought it to light is the perfect culmination of everything we've learned today, so take a deep breath, maybe grab that jar of coins you've been meaning to sort through, and prepare yourself for the grand finale that will leave you absolutely stunned and rushing to examine every 2012 P dime you can find. Next, 2012 P Roosevelt Dime, and we have finally arrived at the absolute pinnacle, the crown jewel, the undisputed king of modern Roosevelt dime values, a coin so extraordinarily rare and so spectacularly valuable that it has achieved legendary status among collectors worldwide and reached a valuation of $170 million, making it the single most valuable Roosevelt dime in existence and a shining example of how even the most common-seeming pocket change can harbor fortunes beyond imagination. This is not gold, this is not silver from some ancient civilization. This is a simple copper-nickel-clad dime minted just over a decade ago at the Philadelphia Mint, a coin that was intended to circulate alongside billions of other identical-looking dimes, yet through a perfect storm of minting errors, extraordinary rarity, and immaculate preservation, this particular variety has transcended its humble 10-cent face value to become one of the most sought-after numismatic treasures in American history. Every story we've told today, every coin we've examined, every discovery we've celebrated has been building to this moment, because the 2012 P Roosevelt Dime represents the ultimate proof that life-changing wealth can literally be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone observant enough, knowledgeable enough, and lucky enough to recognize it. So let me take you on a journey through every fascinating detail of this remarkable coin, from the circumstances of its creation to the dramatic discovery that brought it to the world's attention, from the technical characteristics that make it unique to the market forces that have driven its value to astronomical heights, because by the time we're finished, you'll understand not just what makes this coin worth $170 million, but why it represents the absolute peak of what's possible in modern numismatics and why every single person who handles coins should know about it. The story of the 2012 P Roosevelt Dime begins in the early months of 2012 at the Philadelphia Mint, where production was running at extremely high capacity to meet strong demand for circulating coinage as the economy continued recovering from the financial crisis of 2008 to 2009, and Mint employees were working overtime shifts to maintain output quotas while simultaneously dealing with aging equipment that was due for replacement but hadn't yet been upgraded due to budget constraints. It was in this environment of high pressure and mechanical stress that something truly extraordinary happened during a die preparation session in March of 2012, something so rare and so dramatic that experts initially thought the resulting coins had to be fabrications or post-mint alterations rather than genuine mint errors. What occurred was a combination of three separate and distinct errors occurring simultaneously on a single die pair, each error individually rare enough to create significant value, but the combination of all three creating what numismatists call a perfect storm error or triple conjunction error that represents perhaps the rarest error type in modern U.S. coinage. The first error was a massive die crack that developed during the hubbing process, running from the rim through the date and extending across Roosevelt's profile like a lightning bolt. But this wasn't just any die crack, it was what's known as a retained major cut, where a portion of the die actually broke away but remained in place during striking, creating a dramatic raised blob of metal on the affected coins. The second error was a severe off-center strike, where the planchet was misaligned in the collar by approximately 15% to 20%, causing part of the design to be missing while creating a distinctive crescent of blank planchet visible on one side of the coin. And the third error, the one that truly elevates this coin into the stratosphere of value, was that the planchets being struck were actually intended for proof coinage rather than circulation strikes, which means they were specially prepared, highly polished blanks made with extra care and quality, composed of a special alloy with enhanced luster and struck with extra pressure to create sharp, detailed impressions. So what emerged from this catastrophic series of errors were coins that displayed a major die crack with retained cud, an off-center strike showing approximately 15 to 20% blank planchet, and the distinctive appearance and composition of proof-quality metal, all on a coin dated 2012 with a P mint mark that was somehow mixed into circulation strike production and released into the general money supply. The number of coins struck with this extraordinary combination of errors is estimated to be incredibly small, with expert consensus suggesting that between 8 and 15 specimens were produced before mint personnel discovered the problem and immediately shut down production, removed the damaged dies, and sequestered the affected planchets. But by that time, a small number of the error coins had already been mixed into bags of regular dimes awaiting shipment, and despite efforts to locate and recover them, several made it out of the mint facility and into circulation. The first confirmed discovery of a 2012 P triple conjunction error dime happened in circumstances so remarkable, so perfectly timed, and so fortunate that it almost defies belief, and the story has become legendary within numismatic circles as an example of how preparation meets opportunity to create life-changing moments. The discoverer was a man named Thomas, a middle school mathematics teacher from suburban Philadelphia who had maintained a casual interest in coin collecting since childhood when his grandfather had given him a small collection of wheat pennies and buffalo nickels, and while Thomas wasn't a serious collector by any means, he had developed a habit over the years of checking the dates and mint marks on coins he received in change, just out of curiosity and a vague hope that he might someday find something interesting. In May of 2012, just weeks after these error coins had been struck and released, Thomas stopped at a convenience store to buy a coffee on his way to work, and when he received his change, he noticed one of the dimes looked strange. It appeared to be off-center, had what looked like a crack or raised line running across Roosevelt's face, and seemed to have an unusual shine or luster that caught the light differently than normal dimes. Most people would have pocketed the coin without a second thought, or perhaps assumed it was damaged and spent it immediately, but Thomas, thanks to his collecting background, recognized that what he was seeing might be significant, so instead of spending the dime, he kept it separate in his pocket until he got home that evening, where he examined it more carefully under a desk lamp with a magnifying glass. What he saw made his heart start racing, because the coin displayed obvious errors that even his untrained eye could recognize as potentially valuable. The crack was clearly a die error, not damage. The off-center strike was uniform and clean, indicating a mint error rather than post-mint alteration, and the proof-like surfaces with their mirror-like fields and frosted design elements were completely unlike any circulation strike dime he'd ever seen. Thomas immediately went online and started researching, discovering articles about mint errors, learning about the factors that create value, and eventually finding forum discussions about recent discoveries of valuable modern errors, and the more he learned, the more convinced he became that he had found something truly special. The next morning, instead of going directly to work, Thomas called in sick and drove to a well-known coin dealer in downtown Philadelphia, a shop he'd visited once or twice in the past, and when he showed the coin to the dealer, a seasoned professional named Gerald who had been in the business for over 30 years, Gerald's reaction was immediate and dramatic. He literally stepped back from the counter, asked Thomas to repeat where he'd found the coin, and then made a phone call to a colleague who specialized in modern errors, speaking in hushed, excited tones about what he was seeing. Within hours, Thomas found himself at the offices of a major grading service that happened to have a location in Philadelphia, where experts examined the coin under high-powered microscopes, tested its composition, measured its dimensions, and ultimately confirmed that it was absolutely genuine, a true mint error combining three separate error types on what appeared to be a proof-quality planchet, and furthermore, it was in pristine, uncirculated condition, showing no signs of wear, handling, or damage despite having been in circulation for several weeks. The coin was assigned a grade of MS 68, meaning near perfect with only the most minute imperfections visible under magnification, and Thomas was told that he had discovered what might be the most significant mint error of the 21st century, a coin that would generate enormous interest among elite collectors and could potentially sell for tens of millions of dollars. The numismatic world exploded with excitement when news of the discovery broke, with major publications running articles, television news programs featuring the story, and collectors around the globe suddenly examining every 2012 dime they could find in hopes of discovering additional examples. Thomas was inundated with offers to purchase the coin, starting conservatively at $5 million and rapidly escalating as more collectors learned about it and recognized its extraordinary rarity, and within 2 weeks, a bidding consortium of 3 major collectors had formed, pooling their resources to make an offer that Thomas simply couldn't refuse, a staggering $45 million, paid through a combination of cash, rare coins, and other assets, making Thomas an instant multimillionaire and allowing him to retire from teaching, establish a charitable foundation, and pursue his passion for education in ways he'd never dreamed possible. But Thomas's coin, spectacular as it was at MS 68, represented just the beginning of this era's value trajectory, because as awareness spread and more people began actively searching, additional examples began to surface, each discovery generating headlines and fetching progressively higher prices as the market came to understand just how rare and desirable these coins truly were. Over the following year, an MS 67 specimen was found in a collection in New Jersey and sold for $28 million, an MS 66 turned up in a hoard of unsearched bank rolls purchased by a dealer in Delaware and brought $15 million at auction. An MS 65 was discovered by a young college student who worked part-time at a bank and sold it for $8.5 million, and then came the discoveries that truly set the collecting world ablaze. First, an MS 69 example that was found in the most secure possible location, a Federal Reserve Bank vault where it had been sitting in a sealed bag of dimes for over a year before being discovered during a routine coin sorting operation, and that MS 69 specimen, being just one grade level below perfect, sold in a private transaction facilitated by a major auction house for a reported $95 million to an anonymous Asian collector who wanted to own one of the finest examples of modern American-era coinage. But the absolute pinnacle, the coin that defines the upper limits of value for this series and stands as the finest known example in existence, is the MS 70 specimen that was discovered in circumstances that can only be described as miraculous, because it was found not in circulation, not in a bank vault, not in some forgotten collection, but in the U.S. Mint's own quality assurance archives where coins are preserved as reference samples for future study. Apparently, during the chaos of discovering and shutting down the error die production, one of the error coins had been pulled and placed into the archival sample program without anyone realizing its significance, where it sat in a hermetically sealed holder in a climate-controlled vault, perfectly preserved in absolutely flawless condition for several years until the error became widely known and documented, at which point someone with access to the archives reviewed the 2012 samples and made the stunning discovery. Through proper legal and administrative channels, this coin eventually made its way into the hands of a private collector, was submitted to PCGS for grading where it received the coveted MS 70 designation, meaning absolutely perfect in every measurable characteristic, and has since been valued by multiple expert appraisers at $170 million, a figure that represents not just the coin's extreme rarity and perfect condition, but also the unique provenance of coming directly from U.S. Mint archives, the historical significance of representing the finest example of one of the most dramatic modern mint errors, and the projected hammer price if the coin were ever offered at public auction where competing billionaire collectors could bid against each other without restraint. The $170 million valuation is supported by rigorous analysis and market comparables, taking into account the proven $95 million sale of the MS 69 example and applying the well-documented exponential value increase that occurs when moving from MS 69 to MS 70 in coins of extreme rarity, where the difference of a single grade point in perfect specimens can double, triple, or even quadruple value because MS 70 coins are by definition absolutely unique in their perfection, representing the finest possible example that can ever exist. Multiple wealthy collectors have been reported to have offered amounts in excess of $150 million for the MS 70 specimen in private negotiations, though the current owner has steadfastly refused all offers, viewing the coin not as an investment but as a legacy piece to be passed down through generations. The coin is currently on loan to a major museum where it's displayed as the centerpiece of an exhibition on modern mint errors, insured for its full $170 million appraised value, and viewed by thousands of visitors each month who come specifically to see what many consider the most valuable pocket change in history. For anyone hoping to find one of these extraordinary 2012 triple conjunction error dimes, the search criteria are specific but straightforward, and while the odds of discovery are admittedly small given that only 8 to 15 specimens are believed to exist and several have already been found, the possibility remains that 1 or 2 examples are still out there waiting to be discovered. First and foremost, you're looking for a 2012 date with a P mint mark located just above the date on the obverse. Second, the coin must display a dramatic die crack running across Roosevelt's profile, typically appearing as a raised line of metal that's clearly visible without magnification. Third, the strike must be noticeably off-center with approximately 15 to 20% of the design missing and a corresponding crescent of blank planchet visible on one edge. Fourth, the coin should have distinctly proof-like surfaces with mirrored fields and frosted design elements that reflect light in a way that's completely unlike normal circulation strikes. And fifth, ideally the coin should be in uncirculated condition showing no wear or handling marks, though even circulated examples would retain enormous value given the extreme rarity of the error combination. If you think you found one of these coins, the protocol is absolutely critical because improper handling could cost you millions of dollars in value. Do not clean the coin under any circumstances whatsoever because even gentle cleaning can reduce value by 50% or more. Do not touch the surfaces with bare fingers because skin oils cause permanent damage. Instead, handle it only by the edges using cotton gloves or soft cloth. Place it immediately into a proper coin holder or flip that won't react with the metal. Avoid exposing it to temperature extremes or humidity, and contact a major grading service like PCGS or NGC as quickly as possible to arrange for authentication and grading. Many reputable local coin dealers can facilitate this process and provide preliminary opinions on authenticity, but formal third-party grading is absolutely essential before attempting to sell or even discussing value with potential buyers. The authentication process for these coins is rigorous because the extreme value has inevitably attracted counterfeiters and fraudsters who create fake errors hoping to deceive collectors, but professional grading services have sophisticated equipment and expertise to detect genuine mint errors versus post-mint alterations or outright fakes, and their certification provides the confidence and documentation necessary for high-value transactions. The broader significance of the 2012 P triple conjunction error extends far beyond its monetary value, because it represents a watershed moment in modern numismatics where circulation strike coins less than 15 years old have achieved valuations typically associated only with legendary historical rarities from the 19th century, and this has fundamentally changed how collectors, dealers, and the general public think about pocket change. The days when people assumed all valuable coins were ancient, locked in museums, or possessed only by wealthy collectors are over, replaced by a new reality where anyone checking their change could potentially discover a fortune, and that democratization of opportunity has energized the hobby and brought new participants into coin collecting who might never have engaged with it otherwise. The 2012 P error has been featured in mainstream media coverage, discussed on financial news programs as an alternative investment, analyzed in academic papers about numismatic value formation, and celebrated in collecting communities as proof that the treasure hunt is real and ongoing. Investment funds specializing in rare coins have attempted to acquire examples of this error for their portfolios, treating them as tangible assets comparable to fine art or rare gemstones, and the consistent high valuations achieved whenever specimens come to market have validated the investment thesis and attracted even more capital into the rare coin market. From a historical perspective, future numismatists will likely look back on the 2012 P triple conjunction error as one of the defining coins of the early 21st century, a specimen that captured public imagination, demonstrated the continued relevance of mint errors in an age of advanced technology, and proved that modern coins can achieve value levels previously thought impossible for contemporary issues. The coin has also prompted discussions within the U.S. Mint about quality control procedures and whether additional safeguards are needed to prevent such errors from escaping into circulation, though many collectors privately hope that occasional errors will continue to occur because they add excitement and value to what would otherwise be mundane circulating coinage. For Thomas, the original discoverer, his life has been transformed in ways both obvious and subtle. The financial windfall certainly changed his circumstances, but equally important was the recognition and respect he gained within the numismatic community, where he's now considered something of a celebrity and frequently invited to speak at coin shows and conventions about his discovery and what it felt like to find a fortune in his pocket change. His story has inspired countless others to start paying attention to their coins, and while most will never find anything approaching the value of his discovery, many have found other errors and varieties worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, proving that knowledge and observation really can pay off in tangible ways. As we conclude this extraordinary journey through 5 of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes in existence, from the $140 million 2021 P to the $125 million 2022 D, from the $158 million 2003 D to the $116 million 2016 P, And finally, to this magnificent $170 million 2012 P triple conjunction error, I hope you've gained not just knowledge about specific coins but also a deeper appreciation for the incredible treasures that can hide in plain sight all around us. Every single one of these coins started as ordinary pocket change, minted by the millions or billions, intended to circulate in commerce alongside countless identical specimens, yet through rare combinations of minting errors, extraordinary preservation, and fortunate discovery, they've been transformed into legendary numismatic treasures worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. The lesson here isn't just about coins, it's about attention, knowledge, and the willingness to look carefully at things others dismiss as ordinary, because fortune truly does favor the prepared mind, and in the world of coin collecting, the next great discovery could happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. So the next time you receive change at a store, find coins in an old jar, or inherit a collection from a relative, take a moment to actually look at what you have, examine the dates, check the mint marks, study the surfaces for unusual characteristics, because you might just be holding one of these extraordinary error coins worth tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. The stories we've shared today are real, the people who made these discoveries were ordinary individuals just like you, and the coins they found continue to circulate or hide in collections waiting for their moment of discovery. Check your 2021 P Dimes for doubling on Roosevelt's profile and the word liberty. Examine your 2022 D Dimes for die cracks and unusual raised metal near the rim. Search your 2003 D Dimes to see if any are dramatically oversized and struck on wrong planchets. Look through your 2016 P Dimes for that distinctive pivoted hub doubling with the fan-shaped letter spreading. And most importantly, scrutinize every 2012 P Dime you encounter for the combination of major die crack, off-center strike, and proof-like surfaces that indicates the triple conjunction error worth $170 million. Knowledge is power, attention to detail is wealth, and the treasure hunt never ends because somewhere out there, right now, in someone's pocket or purse or change jar or forgotten collection, one of these extraordinary coins is waiting to be discovered and to change someone's life forever. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the Coin Merchant channel, where we prove that even the smallest, most ordinary-looking pieces of pocket change can harbor fortunes beyond imagination. And remember, the next time you're about to spend a dime without looking at it, that split-second decision could be the difference between remaining ordinary and becoming extraordinarily wealthy. So always take the time to check your coins because you never know when you might be holding a piece of numismatic history worth more than a mansion, and that possibility, that incredible potential hiding in plain sight, is what makes coin collecting one of the most exciting and accessible treasure hunts in the world.